Most people think they'd recognize depression if it showed up. In themselves. In a friend. In someone they love. They picture the version from movies. Crying. Staying in bed. Visibly. Obviously sad. But that's only one version. And it's often not the one that actually shows up. Depression is quieter than people think. It hides inside normal-looking days. It wears disguises that don't look like sadness at all, which is exactly why so many people miss it in themselves for months, sometimes years, while quietly assuming they're just tired, or busy, or going through a phase. Here are 8 signs of depression that most people don't recognize, because they don't look like what we've been taught to expect. Sign 1. Sleeping too much, but waking up exhausted. This one confuses people because it seems backwards. You're getting 8, 9, sometimes 10 hours of sleep. By every normal measure, you should feel rested. You don't. Depression disrupts the actual architecture of sleep, the structure and stages your brain needs to move through to feel restored. You can spend more time in bed and get less real rest, because the sleep your body is producing isn't doing the repair work it's supposed to do. So you wake up tired after a full night's sleep, and quietly start to wonder what's wrong with you, when the honest answer has nothing to do with how many hours you slept. Sign 2. Losing interest in things you used to love. Not sadness, just a quiet flatness, where enjoyment used to live. The hobby that used to feel exciting, now feels like effort. The show you used to look forward to just plays in the background. The thing that used to light you up barely registers anymore. It's not that you're upset about it. That's what makes it so easy to miss. You don't feel sad about losing interest. You just stop noticing that you've lost it. This has a name in clinical language: anhedonia, the reduced ability to feel pleasure. And it's one of the clearest signs of depression, not because you feel bad, but because you've stopped feeling much of anything at all. Sign 3. Eating changes. Nobody notices. Eating far more than usual. Or far less. Not from hunger. Not from discipline. Just a shift that happens quietly enough that even you don't clock it as a pattern. Food stops being about pleasure or routine, and starts being either something you reach for without thinking, or something you simply forget to do. Neither extreme looks dramatic from the outside. It just looks like skipping a meal here, or snacking more there. Small enough that nobody, including you, connects it to anything bigger. Sign 4. Physical pain with no obvious cause. Headaches that don't go away. Back pain. Stomach issues. A heaviness in the chest that isn't a heart problem. This is one of the most overlooked signs, because people assume depression lives entirely in the mind. It doesn't. The same neurological and inflammatory changes that affect mood also affect the body. People with depression report physical pain at significantly higher rates than people without it, and many go to doctors for the pain itself, never connecting it to what's happening underneath. Sign 5. Becoming irritable and angry instead of sad. This is one of the most misunderstood signs, especially in men, where depression frequently shows up as anger rather than sadness. Snapping at small things. A short fuse that wasn't there before. A constant low simmer of frustration that doesn't seem to have one specific cause. People around you might describe you as just stressed lately, or not himself. But underneath the irritability is often the same thing, driving the sadness in someone else. It's just wearing a different expression on the way out. Sign 6. Difficulty concentrating and making decisions. Reading the same sentence 4 times. Forgetting what you walked into a room for. Standing in front of a menu, or an email, or a simple choice, and feeling strangely unable to land on an answer. This isn't a focus problem in the way people usually think about focus. Depression affects the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision-making and concentration, making even small choices feel disproportionately heavy. People often blame themselves for being scattered or lazy, when what's actually happening is a measurable cognitive slowdown. Sign 7. Withdrawing slowly and quietly. Not a dramatic disappearance, just a gradual one. Taking slightly longer to reply to messages. Saying no to plans a little more often. Going quieter in the group chat. None of it looks like a crisis. It looks like someone who's just been busy. By the time anyone notices the pattern, weeks or months have usually passed, because each individual decline was small enough to explain away on its own. Sign 8. Feeling like a burden. A quiet, persistent belief that the people around you would somehow be better off with less of you in their lives. Not always a dramatic thought. Sometimes just a background hum, a hesitation before reaching out, a guilt about needing anything from anyone. This sign matters more than almost any other on this list, because it's one of the strongest indicators of how serious things have become, and it's also one of the most hidden, because people experiencing it tend to keep it to themselves, precisely because they don't want to be a burden by saying it out loud. The biology, here's what matters about all 8 of these. None of them are personality flaws. None of them are about weakness, or laziness, or simply needing to try harder. Depression is a measurable biological event. It changes neurotransmitter activity in the brain. It raises inflammation markers throughout the body. It alters the structure and function of regions responsible for motivation, pleasure, memory, and decision-making. It is not a mood. It's closer to a malfunction in the systems that normally run quietly in the background of being a person, which is exactly why it can show up as exhaustion, or anger, or forgetfulness, or silence, instead of the tears people expect. If any of this sounded familiar, in you or in someone you know, that recognition matters more than it might feel like right now. Because here's the part that gets left out of most conversations about this. Depression is one of the most treatable conditions in medicine. Not somewhat treatable, genuinely, measurably, highly treatable. People recover. Fully. Every single day. The hardest part is almost never the treatment. It's the recognizing, seeing past the version you were taught to expect, and noticing the one that's actually there. If this described you, please talk to someone. A doctor, a therapist, a person you trust. You don't have to wait until it looks the way you thought it would. And if it describes someone you love, reach out to them today. Not because you have all the answers. Just because being noticed is sometimes the first step back. If you found this helpful, share it with someone who might need to see it. And if you're struggling right now, please know that support is available. And reaching out is never a small thing to do. If this video helped you see something you hadn't noticed before, hit subscribe. We'll keep covering topics like this, the ones that don't get talked about enough. And before you go, drop a comment below. Not for views. Just tell us, which one of these 8 hit closest to home? Sometimes just writing it down, even in a comment section, is the first time someone admits it to themselves. You might be the reason someone else reading the comments realizes they're not alone either.